Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Camden Haven Anglican Church Drill Down. My name is Nathan Killick, and the drill down is, as we say each week, it's a time for us, just as people from church, to be able to drill down a little bit into the passage that we looked at on the weekend. And if you missed that passage at all on the weekend, you can check that out on our YouTube channel and find out all those sorts of things. Now, we're going to begin with our special intro. Off we go. Oh, which one was that one? No, it's not that one. There's that one. It's that one. Gee, I forget those all the time. One day I'll get it right. Drill down. Boom, boom. And the logo, and off we go. All right. Well, we'll get there eventually. One day we will work things out seamlessly. Probably won't be true. Tonight we're talking about the often missing link in Christianity, and it's going to be found here in this passage, Matthew chapter 16. But before we begin, what we need to do is this, so that we've got our countdown going. And also I saw a bit of a message here. Let's have a look. Beatrix would like to know your opinion on puzzles, seeing as your face appears to be in a puzzle for the thumbnail of this episode. Well, good one, Beatrix. I think there was, what do you call it, a Freudian slip or something, where your dad sort of referred to me as a puzzle. And I get that. Sometimes I can be a bit puzzling. And so the reason I put a puzzle on the thumbnail picture, excuse me, just had my dinner, for today is because sometimes Christianity is a puzzle and we have to make sure we've got all the bits. Because if there's a missing bit, then the puzzle's not complete. And sometimes when people think about Christianity, they leave out a bit, and that's the bit that we're going to look at tonight. So thank you, Beatrix, for that comment. Let's see, who else is here? The Hogans are here. Good evening, everyone, they say. Who else have we got here? Oh, Greg Jamison. He says, hello, everybody. Hello to you, Greg Jamison. And here we've got, who's that? Oh, it's Nathan Killick. He's saying hello. And Greg Jamison again. And let's have a look here. We've got, Stephen Watt saying hi, awesome, and excellent, so good. And I think even, or was it, or what is it, a slip? A slip, maybe. Who knows? Well, okay, we're going to dive into the passage, so let's check it out. Let me go here and here. Now, notice the other thing I did is I've changed my background to black rather than white, because what was happening is people were saying, that white background. Well, actually, one person told me last week, hey, the white background, pretty blinding when it comes on. Sort of a good thing for next week's passage, but for this week's, not so much. G'day, Marge and June are there. Now, if I do that, will they come up? Yes, they will. Good evening, everyone, from Marge and June. Awesome. So we're going to jump into the passage. Let's see how we go. From that time on. Now, remember, from that time on, we're talking about. Now, that time on is the time that Jesus has said, Peter has answered Jesus with the right answer, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus has said, yep, you got it right, answer from heaven, 100%, well done. And then if I do that, I don't know if I can make both of those come. I'm trying to see if I can make that time come up and me come up. Oh, I can do it. There we go. So you can keep an eye on the time. From that time on. Now, what we need to see is these three words, very easy to read over, actually mark a section in Matthew's Gospel where things are going to change. Things are going to get different In fact, things are going to get darker. And the reason they're getting darker is because the shadow of the cross is beginning to fall upon the narrative. And so that's Jesus is about to say that he must go to Jerusalem. And here we go. He began, let's get this one. He began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. On the third day be raised again, or raised to life. So one of the things we might note here, importantly, is this word must. Is that coming up all right? Yep. Must, and then it happens again, doesn't it? Can you see where it happens again? Let's have a look. And suffer many things from elders and be killed. There is another must there. I think it's here, but it's not being shown. I'll have to check that on the Greek. We can work that out, or maybe Steve can check that while he's here listening. I'm pretty sure there was another day in there, DEI that is, which is the divine imperative, as so it's called. Must happen. This must happen. And so there's the whole idea that this is not a risk assessment that Jesus is taking out with his 12 disciples as they go to Jerusalem. This is what not could happen or might happen, but must happen. It must happen. So I think just be reminded that the thing you already know, how important it is, and the thing you already know is that the death of Jesus is absolutely central to the gospel. We need to understand the death of Jesus because it is substitutionary on a number of levels. Penal substitution, that is, it takes your penalty, substitutionary on a number of different various levels. It's also exemplary. So Jesus' suffering and death, he will then go on to say that the disciple who follows him must also take up their cross. But we're going to get to that in a minute. Whose hands is he suffering at? And we're going suffer many things from the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes. Now, these guys have been the ones where there has been a growing antagonism, hasn't there, between Jesus and the disciples and these guys. Now, these guys are the Bible guys. Remember, these guys are the people who are the teachers of the law. So they're a revered people, are considered quite holy and set apart. So there's going to be antagonism with this bunch. Now, the next thing here is that he says he's going to be killed. So let's underline that. That's pretty shocking. But then it says, and on the third day be raised to life. Now, let's just think about those two things for now. That he must be killed and on the third day be raised to life. Now, I want to look at the second one, the third day be raised to life. There is a lot in the Old Testament about a day of resurrection. So if you look at Daniel in particular, in Daniel chapter 12, it looks forward to a day of resurrection. The resurrection of the righteous, it's a setting straight of everything. It's a putting everything even, on an even keel. It's a day of justice and retribution. Now, they really didn't understand what this meant. So what I want to do is just go to... Actually, I might do this. I haven't done this for a while. I'm going to pop that one on. And let's see if this is actually working. As you can see me trying to do this. And I'm going to pop that. Oh, you're going to see my microphone there, but that's all right. We'll pop that there. And that's 3, I think. There it is, 3. Now it's got that on it. I'm going to just change something and you're going to see it all happen on the screen. And let's do that and that. And I want to go setup. And I want to go display. And I want to go off and exit. All right, that's better. All right. Now, in John chapter 2, and verse 20, let me just scroll that in a bit so you can see that slightly better. Let's come down here. There we go. That'll do us. So here we've got in John chapter 2 and verse 20, there is this idea that that Jesus has said, destroy this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days. And the Jews replied, it has taken 46 years to build this temple and you're going to raise it in 3 days. But the temple he had spoken of was his body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he said. Then they believed the scripture and the words Jesus had spoken. So I suppose the point that I'm trying to make there is that Jesus said things to his disciples that they didn't quite get. They didn't quite get it until after the resurrection. And this particular comment about about being raised again on the 3rd day, I think they probably would have had some sense of really having understood that. They thought they understood it. Let's see, Steve has got something for us. I can't find another day in the passage. Perhaps you're thinking of 24. Anyone who wants... yes. Must take up their cross. No day, just future tense. Yeah, okay. Thank you. That was very helpful. That was the other must I was thinking of, but you have pointed out it's not day. So just that word there, day is a... let me do that so we can see it a bit better. That day is what's called a divine imperative. This must happen. Thank you for that, Steve. It's good to have 2 people working on this. Well done. Let me pop back to this screen and here. And we want to just recognise that the disciples were slowly getting things and understanding things. They didn't get it all at the time, but I think they thought they understood what this whole rising on the 3rd day was. And so that's really not the... so I'm just seeing another message there. I'll just pop that one up so we can see that. There. Also possible that the day applies to both ideas that follow. He must go and suffer. Yeah, good point. Thank you for that. Very true. Do that. And I'm going to pop that off there so we can do that. Pop me back on. Yes, so the resurrection that they were thinking of was probably that sense of, there'll be a resurrection day, there'll be the great judgment day, that sort of thing. So they're really looking forward to that. But when Jesus talked about being raised from the dead, they didn't expect him to come back alive on the 3rd day. When they thought back about it, they would have said, yes, well, this is what he meant. We understand now. The thing, though, that is taken up in particular is this point, and we'll go into verse 22. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, far be it from you, Lord, this shall never happen to you. So we want to see here, let's see, far be it from you, Lord, this shall never happen to you. There's actually 3 negatives in here, and one of the things that I thought was quite interesting is this word, far be it from you, is the same word that we get the idea of propitiation from. And propitiation is an astounding word that describes what the cross is doing. So, I don't know, it's a long bow, but there that word is, redirect it, go away, don't do this. And it's interesting that what the cross will actually be doing is exactly that. It'll be redirecting, but it'll be redirecting that suffering and judgment. Anyway, that's just a thought that I had. That's a bit messy. Let's test that up and let's fix that up. Far be it from you, this shall never happen to you. So there we go, thinking through that one. Interesting that last week we talked about Peter being the rock that Jesus said he will build his church upon. And if he if, as the Roman Catholic Church says, that Peter is the first pope, the first papa, the first father of the church, then his first encyclical is this, isn't it? Verse 22, and he gets it absolutely wrong. He could not have got it wrong. So off to a good start if that's the case. Now, back in Matthew chapter 3, we'll go back here, Matthew chapter 3, we have the baptism of Jesus, and two of the things said, a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." And this is two references here. "This is my Son" is Psalm 2. "Whom I love, with him I am well pleased." That "whom I love" could actually be a Genesis 22 reference, and that's just off the top of my head, actually. So that's Abraham sacrificing Isaac. God says, "Take your son whom you love, and sacrifice him." So that's possible there, but just keep that in mind. But this other one, "with him I'm well pleased," is actually a quote from Isaiah 42. And you can check out Isaiah 42 and see it right at the beginning there. But we've got here a Psalm 2, which is about the son who is going to conquer, and Isaiah 42, which is about the suffering servant who's going to suffer and pay the price for others. So remember Isaiah 53. So we've got, even here in the baptism of Jesus, we have this connection between conquering and being conquered. It's right there in that baptism picture. So that's something to keep mind of. The reason that I bring that up is because the gospel is bringing together these two ideas of Jesus being the king, but Jesus being the suffering king. He's a king, but he's a servant. He's a conqueror, but he is defeated. And these things come in together. But it's by his defeat that he wins. It's you get it, how you think, oh, how does all that work? How do we understand that? I get that. So also, if you looked at Isaiah 53, and that's the classic one, the Colin Buchanan, "We all like sheep have gone astray, ba ba do ba ba, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all." So here is the suffering servant, again in that section from Isaiah 42, all the way through to 50, whatever it is, 54 something. And so this is talking about the suffering servant. And then we pick up something like Daniel chapter 7, which talks about the Son of Man, and it talks about him in some sense at Christ-like terms. He is receiving the kingdom from the Father, and so the Ancient of Days hands him the kingdom. Remember that blessing and honour, glory and power be unto the Ancient of Days, from every nation, all of creation, bow before the Ancient of Days. Every tongue in heaven and earth will declare your glory, all that sort of stuff in that song that we sing. The song's not quite right, but it's good enough. I don't mind it too much. Here we have the Son of Man and a Daniel 7 and an Isaiah 53, a victorious all authority, but a suffering on behalf of others coming together. So really just reinforcing that idea that Matthew's bringing together this. And in this passage, these things are coming together. And that's why I was saying we begin to see a darkness fall across all the text that we read from now on, and that is the shadow of the cross. So let's pop back to that and let's have a look at what we're going. So the reason that I say all that is because Peter was not putting together these two things. He was not putting together Daniel 7 and Isaiah 53. He was not putting together Psalm 2 and Isaiah 42. He was keeping them separate. He needed to put them together, and that's what's going on here. In verse 23, what we see, and if Steve still got out his Greek, he might see that this here is quite a strong way of saying but. It's not just yeah, but. It's but. It's the hot de sort of thing. And you can check that out for me, Steve. Check me on that. And if I'm right, I'll show everyone. And if I'm wrong, I'll just keep talking and hope they forget it. No, we'll keep going. But, this is it. But he turned and said to Peter, look at these strong words, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." Wow, very, very strong words. Now remember, back in chapter 4, after the baptism, came the temptation of Jesus. And the temptation of Jesus is where Satan really challenges him. If you are the Son of God? Remember, back here, "This is my Son." It's said out loud to him at his baptism, and straight away the challenge comes. "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." And it goes on and continues in that vein. Satan is attempting to dissuade Jesus from his pathway of suffering and wants him to use his power to avoid suffering. So what we see here is on the lips of Peter these words, "avoid suffering." No, don't do that. This shall never happen to you. In some way, that's the same words as Satan. That's why Jesus will say, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." So, check that out. So sometimes I've got to look at 3 things at once, and I've got to register that and think of that, make sure that button's pushed, all those sorts of things. So that's why sometimes I just pause and thinking through things. But what happens here is, "You are a hindrance to me." So let's highlight that. You are a hindrance. And this hindrance, that's not very bright, is it? Let me see what we can do here. What if, let's make it a different colour, eh? What do we do? A bit brighter, maybe? I don't know if this is going to work. We'll see how we go. Brightness, here we go. Brightness. Oh, well, we'll see how that is. You are a hindrance to me. So before the word is a scandalon, it is a stumbling stone. It is, you've gone from being the foundation of this church to a hazard, a roadblock to it. So it's really an opposite thing. That he has in mind what? The things of man and not the things of God. So we've got the things of God, not the things of man. I suppose in some sense that could be the sense of this is worldly things. You have in mind a worldly way of thinking and not a godly way of thinking. And the godly way of thinking is actually inverted from the worldly way of thinking. And so there is that whole idea of a paradox. The way up is down. And the way to be great is to serve, that sort of stuff. So we'll move on. But I think what we can say so far is that there is no salvation without suffering. Christ minus suffering will mean sins not forgiven. Sins not forgiven will mean that no kingdom can be created because the people are still sinful. Now, we're going to go to the next verse and we're going to have a look at that one. So let's go to verse 24. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." Now, this really has got to be ground zero for the foundational description of discipleship, mustn't it? So if anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Look at those things. Deny, take, follow. Deny, take, follow. Now, this is not the first time that Jesus has used these words. So as we try to work out what it is to deny, take, and follow, because this is the missing link. This is the missing piece sometimes in the puzzle of Christianity that is presented to people. This key moment is left out. We know about confession, we know about what we're meant to believe, we know how the whole thing works, but actually putting it into practice, taking up our cross, following, denying. Back in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 37, it actually used some of this. So let's see if we can pop down there and have a look at this. So here, how's this one going? Can I pop that up there a bit better? Yeah. So we see here that Jesus has come to bring a division, that this taking up your cross, this living for him, is actually going to possibly divide you from your family. See, a man against his father, a daughter against mother, a daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. This is quite a stark picture, isn't it, from the scriptures. And here, anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Now, really, just check this. Can I do this? Let's see. Yes, I can. So let's have a look at these verses right here. Now, the understanding what it is to take up your cross is described here in terms of the direction of your love. Is your love directed towards Jesus, or is your love directed towards family? Now, I'm not saying family is evil. I'm saying that when family takes the place of God in terms of the things that we love, so, our hearts cannot be vacant. They need to be occupied, and they need to be occupied. Our hearts are built for love. Now that sounds like Disney, if anything ever did, doesn't it? Our hearts are built for love. They cannot be vacant of for an object of love. So if they love one thing, they can't just stop loving that thing and love nothing. They have to love something else. And the Bible will say that our hearts were built to love, but our hearts were built to love God. Now, when sin comes in and disorders all of that, and we begin to love other things, this is idolatry. We begin to make things to be things that we place this thing, we place our hope in this thing. It could be a husband, it could be a wife, a spouse, it could be a job, it could be some sort of ideal, it could be money, all these things. Our heart needs to love, so it sets itself on these things, and it needs to love those things. Now, I suppose what I want to say here is to take up your cross, according to Matthew chapter 10, and so in the background of Matthew chapter 16, to take up your cross is to get your love right, to get your love life right. It is to love Jesus above all else. And now, when I say love Jesus, I don't mean girlfriend, boyfriend type love of Jesus. Jesus is my boyfriend type songs that we can often sing sometimes. But I mean a love that, yes, is emotional, a love that is practical, and a love that is intellectual. We are to love the Lord God with all our heart and mind and soul and strength, all of those things, and to ask the question, to meditate on each one of those. Do I love him with all my strength? Do I love him with all my mind? Do I love him with all my soul, life, those sorts of things? So that is what it is to take up your cross. There's another angle, a different angle than the angle that we looked at on Sunday. That's because this is called the drill down. We're drilling down on some of this stuff. So I think very interesting to keep in mind when understanding what it is to take up your cross, deny yourself and follow Jesus, is to keep in mind that Matthew chapter 10 verse. All right, where were we up to? We are... Oh, that's what I wanted to point out too. Well, let's go to the next one. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Now, it's the same word here. Soul is the same word as life that has been translated above. And Steve can check that out as well. And he can confirm that for us if he likes. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it. Whoever wants to, or what shall a man give in return for his life? So this word, these are all the same words. Psyche in the Greek. Psyche comes from that word psyche, or psychological, that sort of stuff. So this is, and what the Message does, Eugene Peterson, it really defines this sort of thing as your true self. So what we're finding here is Jesus is offering to give you your true self, to help you find your true self. And the way you find your true self is you let go of the self that has a heart focused on things that are of a worldly nature. So it's not that we can't love the things of the world. I love a view. I love a kookaburra. I love to look at a kookaburra. I love to, whatever, it could be animals, could be whatever it might be. Loving those things is good, but it must not be a love that has left God off number one, to seeking him first. So I think that's the sort of thing that to take up your cross and follow Jesus is all about. What good is it? He says in verse 26, what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world? I'll just do that so we can still see that. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in return for his soul? If in 1997 you paid $500 and bought Amazon shares, by now, today, it would be worth $570,000. If you could make the decision, if you knew that this payout is going to pay back 1,000 times over, or whatever it is, wouldn't you do it? Well, here, by faith, is what we do. We are saying, what I am going to do now is take up my cross. I'm going to deny myself and follow Jesus, because that is going to pay off. It's going to pay off big time. You see what he's saying? But it's not only paying off in the future, it's paying off in the present. Do you see why he says there that you can gains it and forfeit his soul, or what can a man give in return for soul? But here before, you're actually saving. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Whoever would save it. So what the saving and finding, there is some sense that you can say, but that'll be confusing. To find it, to save it. I found my real life, my actual life, my true self. And I want to say, friends, that if you are in Christ, you have found your true life, and now you are learning what it's all about. And as you dive into the Word more and more, you'll say, this is my true life. This is how I'm going. It is by putting myself second. It's by denying myself, taking up my cross, following Jesus, getting the loves in order, in all of that sort of thing. So we are up to verse 27. It says there, for the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Now, you might be a bit worried about this. He will repay each person according to what he has done. You might say, but isn't it about grace? How come he's now repaying people? Now, I'm just trying to think about how to talk about that, because it is an important point. Let's backpedal a bit. The Son of Man, Daniel chapter 7, the one who was approaching the Ancient of Days and receives all power and authority, Son of Man Jesus, is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father. There is some sense that this happens at the ascension. This happens also all mixed up and tied up together. This happens with with Pentecost, the pouring out of the Spirit. The angels here, the angels can also be messengers. So there is some sense that he will send his angels to the four corners of the earth with the message about the Christ, the Messiah. That angels is also the word messengers. He's going to send his messengers out. So I think there is some big overlap here. We ought not think this is all in the future, but we ought to think this is happening now. There's a judgment going on now, and the judgment happens with my response to Jesus. So whatever I say now about who Jesus is will be the judgment in heaven eternally. And the angels in the glory of his Father could very well be the messengers. That is, the gospel is going out to the world today with this. Then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Now, again, that just sounds like a future thing, doesn't it? And I think it probably is. I think it's not so much repaying as in God owes us something, but rewarding. And I wonder what the word is there. I can't remember. I have to go back and check out what that word repay is. But there is that sense that if you do take up your cross and follow Jesus, there will be reward for that. And that is part of our incentive for doing that right now. Truly I say to you, goes there. Actually, no, that's something I wanted to point out. And I'm going to go and do that because I think that's important. And I'm going to go to Daniel. Oh, not that one. What a green screen for. Daniel chapter 7. I want to show you something. Now, here we go. We can see here, sorry that microphone's in the way. We can see here that in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 14 is where the Son of Man, he approached, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power, peoples from all nations, etc. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. That happens in the resurrection. So Jesus, at the end of Matthew's Gospel, says, hey, I wonder if this is too weird. No. What Jesus says at the end of the Gospel is, Matthew's Gospel, is all power and authority has been given to me. Time to go out. Now, if we just look down here, where is it? Let's have a look. Where is it? There was a bit, maybe it's on the next page. Let me see. I thought it was 26. Here we go. Look at this. The court will sit, and his power will be taken away. That's the that's the beast there. Then sovereignty, power, and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be handed over to, we think it should say the Son of Man, but it goes on to say the saints, the people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. But the kingdom is handed over to the saints. So the reason I'm picking that out is because of this part. Oops, not this one. This part, that each person will be repaid. So I think in some sense, Daniel chapter, what is this? We'll go Daniel chapter 7 and verse 27. To remember that for next time. Daniel 7 and verse 27 is actually saying that what Jesus receives, all power and authority, those who follow him receive. So remember other passages. So even in Matthew's Gospel, the meek will inherit the earth. Romans chapter 4, Abraham will inherit the world. There's a new creation, those sorts of things. There is a great inheritance coming. What belongs to Jesus belongs to us who are in Jesus. Now, Steve has said something, and it's popped up here. What has he said? Then he will repay. Yeah, okay. Future just gives back reward. Yeah, NIV has reward. Yep, so let's... hasn't come up on my thing yet, so let's just... Oh, there it is. Repay each one. That's the future of apodidomai. It's to give back a reward. So yeah, NIV has reward. So that's a good thought. There is a reward coming for taking up our cross. So we've got 5 minutes. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Hey, this is why I wanted to say we ought not to think that all of this is all future, because Jesus is saying, even right here, that there are some standing there who will see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. They will see all of that happen. That could be what happens next in chapter 17, the Transfiguration, which is what we'll look at next week, which is what the sermon is on Sunday. And you can pray for me because I'm just totally overwhelmed with that passage. The Transfiguration is blowing my mind, and I really don't know how to get it across, but I need your help. So if you have any thoughts, come at me. But I think that what we're seeing here is this is something that not only will happen, but has happened, is happening, and will happen. And this overlap of the age that we're living in now, the now and the not yet, this is the now of the new creation, but the new creation is only those who are in Christ. It will one day be everything. But so there's this overlap that is going on. Well, there's the passage for today. And I want to say the missing link in the Christian message is often this part. We help people understand that Jesus died for them, that he's freed them, that they're now saved, that they have a new life, that sort of thing. But we forget sometimes to get them to count the cost. What is the cost? So Luke 9:23, we'll talk about, Jesus says, someone building a place, we'll work out the cost first, because if they don't want to start things and then find that they can't finish it, count the cost. And the cost is to take up your cross, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow Jesus. That is the missing link that's so often in the puzzle of Christianity. It is to take up your cross. And you and I need to do it. We need to do it daily, as Luke says. And it is a challenge every single day. I want to say, some people are further along in the journey than others, but everyone potentially has big steps back every now and then. So, if you're feeling in a bit of a step back at the moment, that's okay. You're still on the journey. Start stepping forward. Get some help. Find some help. Say to somebody, hey, I need help stepping forward. Now, I want to pick this one. Let's see. I want to put this up because it just takes a little while for these messages to come, so that although Steve has typed that message in and you might be able to see it, it just takes a little while. There we go. Love it, Nathan. The necessary consequence of beginning to believe the gospel is actually acting like you believe it. That's right. Thank you. And what a good way to finish. We'll finish with Steve's words, and we'll leave them right there. So thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Have a look at Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 to 13. And please send me any questions that you have about that, because it would be really helpful for me as I prepare this talk for Sunday. I'm feeling very challenged by it, and I'm challenged understanding it and communicating it. So I'm going to say lovely to be with you tonight, and farewell. that right tonight? On time. All right. See you, everybody. See you later.